Xavier Hutchinson. Coach
Yep.
Steve has him ninth. Coach John has him ninth. Dan outside the top 10. 3 seasons, 254 receptions, 2,929 yards, 15 touchdowns in 2022. 107 receptions, 1,171 yards, 6 touchdowns, and another wide receiver running at 4-5 territory. So I'll let Coach John start us off on this one.
Um,
What's
so this is what I'll say about Xavier Hutchinson, and this is what I'll say kind of about this draft class as a whole, as we get into kind of the meat and potatoes of it. It's I think NFL teams will really value size. I just think they will. I think some of these, bigger guys might get propped up more because of how little a lot of the top end talent. I say little, it's like under 6 feet. I use like 6 feet as sort of like the line of demarcation for me. And so, Xavier Hutchins, 6'2", 200 pounds, big guy, prototypical X sort of build. I think he's fast. He's got good hands to be a deep threat kind of player. Tracks the ball well. I liked a lot of what I saw. I don't know if he's as complete in the short and intermediate route stuff. I don't know if he's complete kind of in the red zone, but you want to big play. You need to take your chances with someone. I think Xavier Hutchinson fills that role and is good at it. So I have him at 9. I've met 9, and I like it, but there are other people that I again, we talked about Kayshon Boutte after the draft. There are other people that could easily jump Xavier Hutchinson, but just on film, I think he looks great.
Coach Steve?
Yeah, no, I like Hutchinson a lot. Honestly, he kind of reminds me slightly of Michael Pittman kind of player. He's got good route running ability. He's really good with contested catch situations. He's got the big hands to snag balls away from defenders real easily. He might not have the elite speed and explosiveness that some people obviously love in wide receivers, especially for the NFL level. But I feel like he can make an impact here at the next level. I mean, you saw that he can't handle the role of being the volume wide receiver one for a team. Now, will he ever develop into an actual wide receiver one? That's wait and see kind of approach, and depends on where he goes in the draft and how NFL teams evaluate him. But a guy who can put up big numbers with high volume kind of shows me that they have that ability to be that alpha dog wide receiver for a team here. And we saw Michael Pittman. He wasn't the highly regarded wide receiver coming out of his class, but people liked him, and he turned up obviously to be the Colts wide receiver one the last few years season now. So I think Hutchinson can be a similar kind of path to success at the NFL level. So that's kind of why I'm here at 9. So.
So Hutchinson, I saw at the Senior Bowl live in person, and I wasn't super impressed. Now, obviously, that's just 4 days at a practice. It's not, shouldn't be the judge of a player's entire career. But then his testing numbers came out with athleticism. I've been using a lot of RAS score stuff this year, relative athletic score, and his RAS score came in at 7.45. And from what I've heard from friends who work in the scouting community, 8 is what most NFL teams use as like a baseline for we want you to be 8 or above in that score. So it just worries me that the athleticism's not there. And I hate to say it, he comes off as a player that was a great prolific college producer, which he was. He had over 2,700 career receiving yards. But I just don't know if he's going to translate as well to the NFL as some of these other prospects that we're going to be talking about as we get further into the show.
That's fair. I do worry that his development is sort of at its peak. Like you've seen him, like
that's kind of how I feel.
Like he's and I put in my notes out of box X receiver. Like he's just like I don't know, Devontae Parker. Like you could just put him out, like he'll be fine. Like he could do it. Like he'll be able to do whatever you need. So I just think there is some value to that in the NFL. But you're right, for fantasy development and all that. Like it's like he's probably. We know what he is at this point.
Come on, Devontae Parker is amazing. If he just didn't get hurt.
Don't get me started on Devontae Parker. Oh my God. Don't get me started on him.
And that's actually a good point that you brought up, John, is like being a prototypical X receiver. And there's not that many of them in this draft class. We'll talk about 1 or 2 more as we go down this list. So I just remind people as they're listening to this that just remember that there are less players in this class that are prototypical X receiver sized. And a lot of NFL teams are going into the draft assembling a wide receiver room similar to a basketball team. They're not just taking the best receiver on the board. They're like, all right, well, we have 3 slot receivers. We don't need another slot. We need an X. So keep in mind that is going to affect the draft capital of players like Xavier Hutchinson, and somebody will talk about a little bit later, that they may go a little bit higher than they would in another year just because of how undersized this class is.
100%. Well, someone once said to me, if you were a fighter, you want a combination of punches. You don't just want one punch. And so that's what these teams are going. And we talk about it in running back rooms now too. It's like all these NFL teams are looking for a myriad of ways to win. And so you're right. You're right. And that's why I think I have Xavier Hutchinson a little bit higher, because I do think his draft capital will be up there.